the concept of Vedanta creeps into it, and the entire process of communication gets into the whole process. The 20 years of the concept of sadharanikaran. One big achievement during last 3-4 decades is that the two terms sadharanikaran and sadharanikaran have become the terms that are used in all languages of the world.
We now have Professor B.K Kuthiala, former Vice Chancellor, Makhanlal Chaturvedi, National University of Journalism and Mass Communication, Bhopal, India. He is joining us online.
Professor Kuthiala is a distinguished figure in media education, having served as a Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi, National University of Journalism and Communication, Bhopal. With over 45 years in the field, his career includes significant roles at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Kurukshetra University and Guru Jameshwar University of Science and Technology. He has been instrumental in establishing academic programs and research methodologies, specializing in organizational communication, media research and online education. He had authored over 100 research reports and papers and contributed extensively to media through articles, radio television programs recognized with the awards like Chanakya Award and Vedic Ratna. He continues to impact media education and research, advocating for the integration of Indian values in media and new models for media convergence. Professor Kuthiala was the research supervisor of Dr. Adhikari for his postdoc dissertation at Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University, which resulted into the publication of the seminal book which Professor Suresh was mentioning, Theory and Practices of Communication, Bharat Muni. Over to you, sir.
My special namaste to Professor B.K Kuthiala, who is chairing this inaugural session on the 20 years of the concept of sadharanikaran. One big achievement during last 3-4 decades is that the two terms sadharanikaran and sadharanikaran have become the terms that are used in all languages of the world. They have been accepted as untranslatables from Sanskrit to any other language, so they are being used as they are available in the original text of Sanskrit. That's a big achievement, and the entire concept of sadharanikaran has got the attention of the scholars. I think I.B. Tiwari in 1963 started talking about this with respect to understanding the entire process of human communication, and then J.S. Yadav and his team, of which I was also a part, worked on it. And over the years, this concept has gained some popularity with the scholars to understand how humans communicate with each other. And now, even when we talk of the machine-human communication and human-machine communication, the concepts of sadharanikaran are being used in AI also. I am associated with 3 organizations that are working on the holistic understanding of the process of human communication. These are the Panchanath Research Institute, Communication Research Group, and Sagi Ratna Analytics. Now they are focusing on different aspects of communication, mass communication, also of the communication within an individual's self, with the Vedanta part of it. I would like to emphasize one thing, that is the approach to any philosophical issue cannot be geographically oriented. When we talk of the Eurocentric approach, now we talk of the second scholars who happen to be living or working in Europe. But in Europe also, there are three very different streams of understanding of communication. German stream, French stream, and the other which is led by the UK. Even in Americas, there are identified 7 schools of thought about the communication and mass communication. And when we look at the entire concept of communication and with respect to sadharanikaran, sadharanikaran is being discussed at 4 or 5 disciplines. One discipline is the discipline of the languages. When they discuss about the poetry or drama, natak, they definitely talk about the sadharanikaran and sadharanikaran. Unfortunately, only non-English and non-Western languages talk about this. This has not tapped into the domain of English literature discussions, because they have not as yet accepted the process of sadharanikaran as to understand the poetic expressions and the dramatic expressions. The parameters of analysis as per the sadharanikaran model are not there. The other area where we should collaborate to understand the process of sadharanikaran is the science of theatres. They also, in their own respect, they talk about the Bharat Muni's concept of sadharanikaran. Another third area where it is very extensively being discussed, perhaps much more than the understanding of the process of sadharanikaran as we do in the communication field, is the philosophical studies. In the philosophical studies, the latest thought process is sadharanikaran as explained by Abhinav Gupta and in Kashmiri Shaivism. That is also a very, very extensive discourse on sadharanikaran and also on how do we talk to each other and what is the process and what is the internal process and what are the external process. That is also very important. Another field where of course we are here in the field of communication and media. We are talking about sadharanikaran and other non-Western concepts, and we have made a lot of progress, but I would like to draw your attention to some of the Western scholars who also, being unsatisfied with their own explanations of the process of human communication, have looked at alternatives. There are many, but I would mention Fred Delmeyer, a professor of political science and who has worked a lot on the need of the dialogue, civilizational dialogue. And in his one of his books, he admits that we have to look at the entire process of dialogue and the science of dialogue from a non-Western viewpoint. And in his efforts to look for an alternate concept of communication, which is not transactional, which is participatory, which Wilbur Schramm introduced that the communication process is a participatory process. It is not give and take, it is not transactions. And he refers to Raymond Panikkar and Raymond Panikkar's theory of dialogical dialogues. He has referred to it, and in dialogical dialogue, although the term sadharanikaran has not been used because perhaps Delmeyer was not exposed to the Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra and other things, but he talks about the entire process of dialogical dialogue and perhaps referring to the practice of what we had in our country traditionally, that is Shastrat, the parampara of Shastrat and the parampara of asking questions and seeking answers. And another area where this concept of sharing of the whole thing has crept into is the quantum physics, where the subatomic particles' behavior is to be understood, and when we find that this wave particle duality and the unexplained relationship between the particles, subatomic particles that are miles apart, they seem to be related to each other, and then the concept of Vedanta creeps into it, and the entire process of communication gets into the whole process. Like the Fred Elmer said, talks about the whole concept of how separatism and togetherness, they can live together. He talks about it, and when we talk about the whole thing, then integrated humanity, when he talks in his book on integrated humanism, he talks about the commonality of the thought process. Perhaps these are the areas where we have to look into it and not outrightly reject the entire Western concept. When we talk of the sadharanikaran, can we ignore the Frank Dance's model of helical spiral of communication process? We can't. Can we ignore the Wilberstein's model of participatory communication? I don't think we can. So, when we look at the entire process of human communication as a holistic study, not a study restricted to different disciplines, but as a holistic study, samagrata se, when we look at it, then it happens that there is a huge knowledge available on the process of human communication, where sadharanikaran is one of the elements of communication, and the end result perhaps is sahardayata. Desired end result is sahardayata. Because we all know in human communication, we know that you cannot not communicate. Even when the decoding and encoding process are different, then even then the communication does take place. But when we talk of the sadharanikaran, perhaps the mathematical formula would be when the decoding of the so-called receiver is similar or same to the encoding process of the sender. That perhaps is the crux of the whole sadharanikaran model, and the conferences like this, where we discuss specific concepts, as I can see that it draws people from all disciplines, but more people should be involved in talking about it, so that we can evolve a total holistic model of communication to study how humans communicate, and what is going to be the future of communication when the technology has become so convenient and so facilitating that the barriers of geographical barriers are dead, the distance is dead, the time is dead in the terms of communication, and perhaps we have to search and create a model where the sadharanikaran process is practiced in such a manner that it creates a universal sahardayata. A universal sahardayata, that means there is a commonality of thought process amongst the human beings, but the basis of that commonality is that we not only tolerate the other viewpoint, but we accept and we welcome the alternate viewpoint also. Perhaps that is the total concept of future research for communication, and I am very sure that this seminar of 2 days, drawing scholars from all over the world, is going to create an environment of research where the communication is not viewed in terms of the geographical approaches, but in the terms of the entire universal approach, and it's not restricted to the study of communication, but it is the people from all fields, from sciences, technology, AI, augmented reality is also a great field of communication, and also from literatures, linguistics, theatre, and political other humanities, especially the political science. They all get involved and create a wider and perhaps the ultimate understanding of how humans communicate. I think that's the crux of the problem. I am grateful. The last 1 hour was very educating for me. I listened to some of the scholars, and that gave me some new thought in which the entire process, entire research is going on all over the world, and perhaps this conference can come out with some resolutions that will involve more people, more disciplines, and more holistic in its view to understand and explain the entire process of human communication, and then create models that can create a harmonious humanity in this world. Thank you so much. I am very grateful to Nirmal Mani Adhikari, and I know that when we used to talk about the Bharat Muni and Natya Shastra and other things, he used to come out with new ideas, and then we decided to have a book on Natya Shastra's based understanding of communication. I am sure Nirmal Mani Adhikari, under the guidance of his Vice Chancellor and other people, will take the entire process further and create more dialogues and more consultations and more theory building in the process of communication. Thank you so much. Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Professor Kuthiala.